I will now like to introduce the next speaker, who is Dr. Joan Camilleri. Joan is the head of the counselling service at the University of Malta. She received her PhD in psychotherapy from the University of Middlesex, and her research is about the lived experience of leaders during periods of change and transition, primarily within the healthcare sector. So the floor is yours, Joan. Please share your slides, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm very excited to be here with these lovely people, and coming from so many different parts of the world. It's always so interesting to see people who are coming from such different contexts and places, and yet interested in becoming better people, I suppose. Well, I was getting a bit concerned there because Ines was covering everything I was going to say. And then I saw the books, Simon Sinek and Stephen Covey, and I was going, no wonder. So I named my presentation The Emergent Self, and I would like to actually build on what Ines was saying before me when she said about the development of the growth mindset. Because learning helps us to develop as people, becoming better people, becoming a better version of myself. And so what I'm going to try to say in about 15 minutes, Mission Impossible, is the relationship, I guess, between becoming a better person by modifying modifying my boundaries, and through that, developing resilience. In Gestalt psychotherapy, we have what is called the paradoxical theory of change, and that the paradoxical theory of change begins by accepting what is. I guess very much in line with what Ines was saying about the awareness of self and the awareness of the other, and the awareness of the relationship between the two, and how the two, the context and the person, need to adapt to each other for us to be able to develop better ways of being. Help. So I'm going to start from resilience, and this is why I said I'm sort of taking up from Ines. So resilience can be viewed as a range, as a continuum. Some people have a low resilience, which is there is a poor bounce back ability. When things happen, I remain under it. It's a bit like a car without suspensions. You're driving and each hole is a big pain. Okay. Some people have a higher ability, a capacity to recover, and they have it easier to come back to what they used to be. However, there are some people who work very hard on themselves, and they have extremely high resilience. And basically, they have what we call post-trauma growth or development. It's pretty much like when the going gets tough, the tough not only get going, but become tougher. Or that we use what we encounter in life to become better people. Or as Churchill said, we learn from our mistakes in order not to repeat them. So this is not a new concept. We were talking about quite an old concept. But what is important is that we're moving beyond the status quo. We're moving beyond homeostasis. We're moving beyond going back to how or what we used to be, to becoming better people, to thriving. So ultimately, when we're talking about resilience, we're also talking about people who can assimilate from the event that is happening to them, accommodate the learning into their way of being, and transit from what I am to who I can become, and therefore thrive. Which is why I'm saying that Ines has already mentioned these things, and I'm just sort of going a bit more in detail, but I can really see that we were singing from the same hymn book. What I would like to introduce, though, is that perhaps we need also to develop the ability to learn. That is, we learn how to learn. So learning how to learn is kind of divided into two sections. The first loop, it's a double loop learning. A single loop learning is learning to do what I do better. But in double loop learning, it's learning how to adapt to a changing context, learning how to adapt to a changing context and changing norms, and constantly questioning myself if the norms I'm living by are the norms which are appropriate for me in the here and now. So what we do is that we're constantly, first of all, the first would be to accept that change is a constant. Everything changes in life. Change is a constant, but transition is a choice. My adapting positively to the ongoing changes is a choice I make. And it's a healthy choice. However, it is a choice that depends sometimes on our personality. There are people who are a bit more rigid and find change and transition hard. There are people who are a bit more flexible and find change much easier. And there are people who need to develop the ability to adapt themselves to change. So the loop number one is that I learn to do what I do better. I learn to be better at writing a research. I learn to be better at communicating with the people around me. I learn to do, to look after myself better. However, as I change, let's say, from PhD student to postdoc to academic searching for a tenure, the norms I am supposed to be working on change. Like a student is, not saying that you change of things like ethics and stuff like that. They remain the same. But I am not the same person as a student as I am if I were a postdoc person, or I'm not the same person if I become an academic searching for a tenure. I'm not the same person when as an academic I have tenure. And now I am teaching people, I am supporting people, I'm supporting students, and I'm a mentor. So my norms as a student, and my accountability as a student, and my norms as a mentor, and my values as a mentor are not the same. And sometimes we do not carry out this transition smoothly because we're not aware how much we need to adapt to the changing context, the change in time, and the change of our own identity and personality. So where do the boundaries come in from? Well, there are two forms of boundaries. There is a surrounding boundary, which could be our university, which could be the home, which could be our place of work. And this surrounding boundary changes according to where I am, even during my day. At the moment, my surrounding boundary is European. But when I switch off this, my surrounding boundary is the counseling services unit. When I go home, my boundary is home. If I go and have a coffee, my boundary, the context is the coffee shop. So again, there is a change in the external surrounding background and boundary. My self-boundary. I will take up the question that Ines started off with and take it a little bit further. The id function, my child function, if you want to call it that, or my past function is, what do I need? And as we grow older, our needs might change. As children, our needs are basic, and then we grow older and our needs is family and friends, and then we grow older and we're going to retire, or we're going into older age, and maybe we're looking at self-transcendence. So what is my need? What am I supposed to be doing at this point in my life? Then there is what we call the ego function, which is the commitment I want. Sometimes people come to me and say, I'm having difficulty losing weight. This is a very common complaint. So let me really go to the common. And I say, do you need to lose weight or do you want to lose weight? Because the two is not the same. Want is a commitment. And finally, who am I? Who do I need to become a resilient person? And when we have this answering these three questions together, we can develop a new self. Now, I know I'm taking a very psychotherapeutic approach, but then I'm a psychologist and a psychotherapist and also a researcher. But I also see on a practical level, people who come to us because they are burnt out, because they want to be able to develop resilience at the university, to be able to study, to see themselves through their doctorates, to see themselves through the lack of tenure. And these are questions that we ask them. We ask them to reflect. I think more or less Ines went through this, so I think I will give this slide a miss, not to repeat, but obviously this will be presented as well. What do we need to learn? What do we need to develop as human beings, therefore, to become resilient and learn how to learn? First of all, we're looking at sensory, the physical. Here we need to foster skills such as observation, listening. Observation and listening gives us the evaluation of the here and now. Many people suffer anxiety because they either live in the past and they regret what happened, or they are living in the future, in the fear of what is going to happen, and they miss living in the here and now. By observing and listening and being aware of myself in the here and now, I ground myself. I live in reality. And if we had to use the phrase that a happy life is a life made up of happy moments, if I'm living in the past or the future, I'm not actually living happy moments. So living in the here and now. The second skill that we need to develop is inquiry and communication. And I think Ines mentioned communication over and over again. And communication is a very important aspect. However, communication, apart from, as Ines said, starting with I phrases, is also empathy. My ability to put myself in the other person's shoes. The thing is, if I don't know myself, observation and listening, how can I put myself in somebody else's shoes? Who am I putting in somebody else's shoes if I don't know myself? And therefore, inquiry into who I am and who am I going to become, and inquiry into who others are and how my interaction with them is going to affect us together is an important aspect that one needs to consider. Emotional intelligence. And now, when we want to develop emotional intelligence, we need to be looking at coaching and counseling. I agree with Ines that a lot of people can give us a lot of feedback about ourselves. However, using the Johari window, there are aspects of ourselves which we do not know and which other people do not know about us. And I believe that those aspects can come out during life coaching, can come out during counseling. What others know about us and we don't know about ourselves, yes, they can tell us. And I think having the ability to communicate and to receive feedback is also a skill that we need to develop. Ines was speaking about, what they said to her, and I made a little note. You know what, Ines, they said the same thing to me, except that instead of saying I was arrogant, they actually told me, you've got a resting bitch face. So I think Ines and I seem to have a lot of things in common. Probably people confuse looking confident with looking arrogant. And maybe that's what they told me. Don't smile a little bit more. You have a very intense face. So if you smile, people might think you're actually who you are, a much softer person. So it's taking the feedback, using the feedback, and continually asking for feedback. The one before the last is mindfulness. I believe that people do need to learn a little bit of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not relaxation. Mindfulness is my ability to live in the here and now. and to be aware without judgment of what I'm thinking and feeling. And by being aware without judgment of what I'm being and feeling, I can really be aware of myself. And by accepting myself as I am, can then plan to change. And of course, what have we been doing now? All the while that I have been talking, if not reflecting and envisioning the future. And this is critical self-reflexivity, if we really want to give it another name. So learning how to learn is working hand in hand with being critically self-reflexive from a positive, non-judgmental perspective. I'm okay, you're okay, to go back to what Ines was saying. This is the parallel between our presentations. And I wanted to say this because I'm seeing so many parallels that I want to highlight that a lot of the things have been said in different words and repeated in different words. And I believe that where there is repetition, it's like thematic analysis, no? The more a theme comes up, the more important the theme is. So the more common things Ines and I are saying, the more important those themes are because they're coming from two people. So I too would like to give a bit of an idea on how to modify our boundaries to keep them functioning. Look for opportunities of self-discovery. Do not be afraid. You might discover something more beautiful about yourself than you ever thought. And mindfulness here enhances awareness, observation enhances awareness of the other, and communication facilitates the interaction between the two. Build safe social support networks. Do not be afraid of ending toxic relationships. That is extremely important. We might feel a bit awkward about saying to someone, in my heart, I don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, whenever I talk to you, I come out feeling frustrated. I come out feeling angry. I come out feeling like I'm not good enough. No, you know, that's one person I don't want in my life, and that's fine. Nurture a positive view of yourself. Develop an appreciative approach. Appreciative approach is just asking yourself, what went well for me today? What did I learn? What did I do which is good? It distances us, actually, unfortunately. Maybe here I tend to be a bit distant from Ines, away from the problem-solving approach. A problem-solving approach, from my perspective, is one that's looking for problems. An appreciative approach is looking for success. And I think we live such hard lives that being able to pat ourselves on the back and saying, this I did well, this I can do better, might even help us to develop our self-esteem and self-appreciation. So keep things in perspective. See crisis as an opportunity. Morgan speaks about taking things to the edge. So if where you are, there is a crisis, just think, what can I do in this crisis that's going to help me and help others? What can I do and how can I do it? And here again, I am in total agreement with Ines, not why, but how and what. Accept change as part of life. We've already said this. Move towards smart goals. Don't just make any goal. Think well. Where this goal is going to take me. Do I want this goal? And I think want is essential because want is commitment. And where there is commitment, I believe there is success. So in the end, we can take our decisive actions. So I think I stop here. I don't think there's anything else. Nope. I'm here and that's it.